blog video on the Civic today. I'm going to tell you a little bit of history about the Civic, what I got, what happened, how the encounter went, and what I'm doing now with it. So we'll get deeper dive inside the video. If you guys are doing something, feel free to leave this on and listen to the whole story and learn from my experiences, basically. So let's get it. I'm gonna prop you guys right here. Actually, I might be able to prop you guys right here because of this. Ooh, just I can actually. See, this goes all the way here. Sometimes these Temu stuff really sucks. Oh, looks like we're from there. So, Civic, huh? So the Civic is a beautiful masterpiece, I like to call it, because this car has been nothing but beauty in of itself. So surprisingly, it's letting me go into gear today. Some other times it doesn't let me, so I'm surprised it actually is being a beautiful piece of artwork. This is my artwork piece. So as you guys can tell, the car is pretty slammed as it is. So I got this car from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut. I was looking for a car because my Celica had completely rotted out to the ground, and it wasn't drivable anymore. I couldn't drive that thing anymore because it was to the point where I was endangering myself and where I work. Stupid Honda Civics with those beeps. My Celica never had this. It was rotted out, and to the point where it was almost like if I continued driving there and something broke in the rear end and I was in the middle of nowhere, I would have not been able to find anybody or call any type of tow truck or anything like that. So I was like, you know what? So I got rid of it. I got rid of the Toyota, and I started looking around, and I wanted to look around for a Honda Civic Si because my friend had one, and she had one since it was new back in 2000, and I think hers is an 07. So I was like, you know what? I'll consider it. I'll look around, check around for prices, and see if I can get a Civic Si for a decent price. The market for the SIs were stupid high, so I didn't even consider it. So I started looking for another Celica, and then I started looking at Mazda Speed 3s, and then I started looking at SRT 4s, and then I was like, you know what, I can't afford any of these cars. So I waited maybe about like a week, and a Civic had came up that I liked for maybe about like 6K. It was like 6 or 7, because I was looking for something in really, really good condition, and that wasn't highly modded out. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I came across this 07 Civic Si. It was copper, orange, and they I guess what's common with the Civics is that the K-Series transmissions are weak in the synchros, so they usually upgrade the synchros. So that's what I looked into. Was okay, so this guy upgraded the synchros, but I had asked advice from somebody, and they had told me to not get it because I guess that usually means that the car's been beat on or something. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll pass on it. So I told them I'd pass on it, and I reconsidered, and I said, you know what, let's go take a look at it. It doesn't hurt to go take a look at it. So I went to go drive the mirror, and this was probably like 2 days after I told them no. And we looked at it. No, actually, we went to Chick-fil-A, and he canceled on me and posted it down. So I'm like, oh wow, okay, so he took it down. That's not fair on me. So another Civic had came up, and it was a an 08 Civic Si. It was a coupe. It was blue. It had really, really pretty blue. So I'm like, wow, that paint looks like it was really, really well taken care of. So I'm like, you know what, I'll consider it. So I texted him, I reached out to him, and I said, hey, I like your Honda Civic Si. Is it still available by chance? And he's like, yeah. Do you want to come by and take a look at it? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay, but don't waste my time. So he was like being in a little bit of a pissy mood. And I'm like, no, I'm not there to waste your time. I want to take a look at the car to make sure it's a good running car. So I took a look at it, pull out of his garage. He started it. It ran. It idled for quite a bit. And so it idled for a little bit, and he ended up telling me, okay, you saw the car, you looked at it, are you interested in it? And then I'm like, no, I still gotta take a look around. Oh my gosh, these have big brakes. People today, dude. Oh, he's trying to back in. I'm gonna move, dude. Sorry, people usually do not know how to drive. Pretty good driver for doing that. Sorry, I'm kind of vlogging and driving at the same time. So it was like, he's like, are you done looking at it? And I'm like, no, I gotta continue looking at it to make sure it's a good running car. So he had it idling for a bit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm interested in the car. The car looks fine. Looks like it needs a couple of tires and it needs some brakes and stuff like that. He's like, I'll come back and I'll bring cash in hand and I'll go drive it. So that day I went back home. I thought about it because I felt like that was the wisest thing for me to do. So I did that. And next thing I'm like, you know what? I want the car. So I went to go take a look at the car. And and I went there, I saw the title, looked at it, signed it, and I'm like, while I'm signing it, I'm like, oh shit, this guy's name doesn't line up with what the title says. So I had messed up on that end through myself. So I'm like, shit. What else happened after that? So I'm like, why does this have a different name? He's like, oh, it's something I do. I flip cars for a living. I'm like, okay, cool. So, I signed it, signed the title. We agreed on, I think it was asking 7 and I got it for 6. Keep in mind, the car had 143,000 miles and, the clutch had already been done. A bunch of other pieces were done, but all right, this is what I know for now. So drove the car back home. No, I didn't drive the car. I apologize. I didn't drive the car back home. I got it towed. So the guy that sold me the car ended up telling me, you don't want to drive it home? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to drive this car home and register it uninsured. Thank God I didn't that day, by the way, because the car had a leaking radiator. The brake booster was leaking, causing it to idle very shitty. And I'm assuming when it's cold, obviously the long-term and short-term fuel trims are automated, so obviously you're not going to hear it when it's doing that. But once you start driving it and using the brakes, then it's going to be visible. Little did I know this later on. And what happened after that? So I got it home, and I decided to insure it. Sorry if I'm dozing off a little bit. I just woke up. I work third shift, so it's hard to kind of tell these stories while trying to be focused at the same time. So I got home and I decided to insure it. I decided to put it through temp registration so I can get through emissions. Little did I know, I went through emissions and they told me to check engine lights on. And I'm like, oh, the light isn't shining on, but he's like, oh, it's on though. So I scanned it. I had a code for the phasers incorrect timing or something like that. And I'll upload you guys with part 2 on the way back from whatever I'm doing. I'm gonna go to TJ Maxx and then I have to go run a couple errands at Stop and Shop and then go back home. Okay, so check it was for the phasers. It was on for a master flow sensor malfunction, a battery malfunction, and something else. I replaced the battery. I replaced the cam sensor, which was my mistake, and the cam still came on. I'm like, oh, don't tell me it's timing. Had somebody else came by, double check, it was timing. So I'm like, shit. I ordered a whole timing kit for $400 for this car. Keep in mind, I already bought this car and I'm already putting work into it, maybe about like 3 weeks after. because I was driving and it was completely fine while I was driving. It was just bucking really hard because obviously the timing's incorrect. So intake, exhaust, everything's gonna be out of whack. So that's what made me start raising an eyebrow in the first place. I had just replaced the brake booster, and what else? And then I ended up replacing that cam sensor. Then I ended up replacing the. I did a whole oil change on it. I did a coolant flush on it too, because later on I'd realized after doing all this, the radiator was leaking. So I put a new radiator in it. So I had to put a new radiator in it and all this work. It was probably like $1,000 in, with labor, parts, blah blah blah. What happened after that? I think I drove the car for a bit, and then I realized my first gear started grinding, and then I'm like, now this is really, really getting weird and not right. So I changed out the gear fluid, put new gear fluid in it. It fixed it a little bit, but then it fixed it all the way. So I'm like, okay. Started grinding first gear, then it started grinding second gear. So I'm like, oh no, the clutch is going out for sure. So clutch was completely torn apart. There was washers in between the pressure plate and the flywheel. And I'm like, why would they do this? So I got a little bit mad, not gonna lie to you. I texted him and I reached out and I'm like, what's going on with this car? I already had to put into $2,000 worth of work into this car, and I already gave you 6, so I already put 8 into this car as it is, and it's still not running correctly. And he told me, I told you the car was drivable and that it was drivable. And then I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure a drivable car wouldn't be slipping, and it wouldn't be grinding gears, and it wouldn't be overheating, and it wouldn't be leaking antifreeze and all this stupid stuff. And many of other things. I'll continue back the story whenever I can. Right now I got time. Sorry about that. My phone had lost enough storage on my phone. I didn't have enough storage. So now we're gonna get back with the video with the Civic, and hopefully you guys can hear me better. My dog's sleeping. The Civic. The best advice I could probably give you guys after that whole situation, that whole shenanigan, and wasting probably $3,000 down the drain on a car, is that, one, make sure the title is clean, and make sure that the person has history about the Civic. Because the problem with Honda owners is that when they do maintenance, it's very minimal maintenance. So like, they'll do the bare minimum. So they'll do like oil changes. If they have I don't think they would change the coolant. If they have to change tires, they'll change tires. And if they have to do any type of rotors and brake pads, they'll do at least the rotors. They'll never change. They'll do at least the brake pads. From my experience, they always change the brake pads and never change the rotors. And this is going based out of my brother's RSX, my brother's TSX, my mom's Honda Accord, my mom's Acura MDX, and my dad's Acura TL. It just seems like these Hondas, they say, oh, they're such a great car, but then they run them through the piss shit, and then they just don't work out. So my best advice to you guys is make sure that the car has history of maintenance, of any type of maintenance that it's ever had, and make sure the title's clean. Make sure it's signed under their name, because you run through the risk of going to the DMV and then them asking for the signature for the bill of sale. And that's going to be a pain. I got lucky from this car. They didn't ask me for that, and they just gave it the title, which is a blessing of its own. Number 2. When you plan on buying a Honda Civic, the 8th generation, is very common for the paint to be affected. If you can get a Honda Civic for a really good price with a matte coat paint job, then get it. Because these paint jobs on these Civics are not that well. You'll probably have paint fade very quickly if you tend to park in the sun a lot, or drive it a lot in the sun during the summer times and you don't wax your car at all. Number 3, if there has been any mods done to the car at all, ask the previous owner if mods have been done. So for example, if the synchros in the transmission have ever been changed, Has the engine ever been changed? With especially with these K series, people beat the heck out of them. So you want to make sure that that work that was done is documented for it, or at least there's photos of it. I'll give you a good example. On my Toyota Celica, the motor was replaced. So what I did was I saved the paperwork from the junkyard that I got the engine from, and I took pictures of the engine work that was done on the car. Thankfully, the owner that owns the Celica now didn't care for the photos. He just knew that the motor was changed, because you could tell, and he didn't care because it ran fine anyways. The car was an absolute gem, but it had rear subframe rot, so I had to get rid of it. Number 4 is probably gonna have to be seat interior conditions. These seats for the Honda Civic Si's, the seats are very popular, and they're expensive. People ask, "Oh my gosh, such a pretty penny for the seats." Let's see right now. I'll give you a good example. For seats. Let's see what their asking price is. Yeah, Honda Civic Si seats, $400. Like, that's insane. The people are asking for brand new prices for these seats. So make sure the seats are in good condition, the interior's in good condition. As far as the carpet ripping and stuff like that, it's fine. I think that just gives you a rough idea of how beat the car is, probably, because of clutch kicking, obviously. That's gonna wear it down. I don't think I've ever weared down the carpet on my Celica from normal driving at all. So it's definitely probably enough for either they were clutch kicking the heck out of that car a lot, or they were probably driving it without mats like that for quite a bit, and then it started peeling little by little, and they just didn't care to put mats in it. So make sure the interior is in good condition. Number 5, I don't even know what number I'm at, is if the car has been modified, ask them if they've had Hondata with it. Hondata is ECU software that the Honda uses to adjust fuel trims and timing and many of those aspects. That's what most aftermarket ECUs do. Either if it's a standalone, either if it's a piggyback, and vice versa. I've had one in the Eclipse, and the Eclipse had a plug-in one, so you had to run a USB cord from the OBD2 scanner. It was called DSM Link. There's version 2, version 1, version 3. I had version 3. So it's through the connector, USB goes to your laptop, and I learned how to mess with my fuel trims through that. I learned a little bit about DSM Link, and I have a little bit of an idea of how it works, and I learned a lot with that. So make sure that if it does have any history on the car of tuning and stuff like that, that's documented also, that the owner tells you. Number 6. Okay. If you're, it depends what kind of Honda Civic Si you want. Do you want one that's modified, or do you want one that's not modified? If you're just starting out and you don't understand these cars for what they are, get a stock Si and do the mods you want yourself. If you're experienced in the field, go ahead and buy whatever Civic Si you want. But if you're not experienced, get a stock Si with light mods. Light mods can be intake, exhaust, any type of bolt-ons, so like short shifters, let's say aftermarket cables for the shift linkage. I don't know what you would say, control arms, ball joints, because those stuff you can upgrade through K-Tuned and Skunk 2. So make sure you get your Civic Si completely stock if you're new to the field. Last but not least, my last piece of advice for you if you're planning on getting a Civic Si is make sure that it hits VTEC. When I got my Civic Si, it was having an issue with the with hitting VTEC, and it was having an issue with hitting VTEC because of the fact that the timing was wrong. So check your cluster. That's a bonus PSA. Check your cluster. There's rowdy people out there that have Honda Civics, and it's just sad. So just be careful. Do your research on these cars. and realize that these cars, it's a Honda Civic. They're going to be beat on. They're going to be heavily modified, or they're going to be completely stock. They're going to be cheaply modified, or they're going to be well modified. There's going to be broken stuff all over the car, or the car is going to be clean. Usually with these Hondas, from my experiences, they're not lukewarm cars. You either get a good car, a good Civic, or a really messed up Civic. So my best advice is to you guys, if you guys want a Honda Civic, make sure it's completely stock. Maybe something that has an intake and an exhaust, but that's it. No headers, no catless downpipes, none of that. Just catback exhaust and intake. That's it. That's all you want. That's all you need when you're starting out with these cars. Because you don't want to give yourself the headache of chasing around problems and chasing around other stuff. Plans for the Civic right now is the interior. It's in pretty messed up shape. So what I'm doing is I'm replacing the radio, because the radio that I have is, at first, I don't know why, it started clicking. So when you turn the car on, the accessories mode, you can hear it go kick, 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 and then it stops. And then we shut it off, shut it back on, does a kick, 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 like if it was like a stuck CD was in the thing, was in the radio, but there wasn't, so I was confused. So I'm gonna be changing that. Next thing for the Civic Si I'm also thinking about is I have to replace the rear window tint. That's absolutely shot. It's all bubbling in the back. And last but not least, I'm gonna be replacing the wheels. I'm gonna be getting Whistler KR1s. The face is gonna be white. The lip is gonna be machine silver. So then that's gonna be going with it, because white looks good on the Civic. It really does. Because it's blue, and blue and white usually go really, really well with each other. And that's it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be throwing a short shifter in it, or doing any type of body mods. But for the most part, I'm trying to keep it as dailyable as possible, because the Celica was absolutely pain to daily, because the wheels were so like wide. They were 18s. These are 17s. So I'm planning on keeping 17s and maybe go a little bit wider, but not too wide, to where it's like reducing the speed of the car. And that's it. If you guys have any more questions, drop them below. I'll drop a video on the short shifter bushings, and then I'm gonna drop another video on the cable bushings, the ones that I got from Amazon. I'm gonna teach you how to install those with very short clips. I'm not trying to make long videos either, but this is probably like a 20-minute long video, because I have to combine this with the other video I just made. And I wish you guys luck with the Hondas. If you plan on getting a Honda Civic, reach out to me. I am on Instagram, the Walmart Type R, if you have any questions. I may not be the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but I can at least try to help you with as much as I know. And yeah, love you guys. Type R out.